The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
I got barraged by hate mail from people saying, it's not, if you want to celebrate Boxing Day, go back to Canada, Stein. It's not Boxing Day here. There's no such thing as Boxing Day in America. In America, the day after Christmas is called Cinco de Mayo. Got it? Okay, we won't do the Boxing Day thing. I think today, December 30th, it's Republic Day in Madagascar. And it's also the day of the declaration of Slovakia as an independent ecclesiastic province. So happy day of the declaration of Slovakia as an independent ecclesiastic province to any Slovaks listening. I think it sounds snappier in Slovak. But because of the hostility to our Boxing Day special, we're going to hold off on the Malagasy and Slovak recipes until the third hour of the show. Ted Cruz, by the way, this Boxing Day, this hostility to Boxing Day has obviously got to Ted Cruz because he has now announced, Senator Ted Cruz, Republican of Texas, has hired lawyers to officially renounce his Canadian citizenship. He expects the process to be completed sometime in 2014. This is a report in the Dallas Morning News. By the way, speaking as a Canadian, I had no idea. This is news to me that it's that complicated to renounce your Canadian citizenship. It's certainly not difficult to acquire. Half the genocidal butchers in Sudan have got a Canadian passport in the back of their pocket in case things go a bit rough over there. But apparently Ted Cruz has hired, again, I didn't even realize you needed to hire a team of lawyers. I just thought you had to call 1-800 I'm no longer Canadian and say, hello, I don't want to be Canadian anymore. I didn't realize you had to pay $500,000 in legal fees. But apparently Senator Cruz, he was not aware of his dual citizenship until it was brought to his attention by the newspaper earlier this year. Though his mother he was born in Calgary, Alberta. His mother was an American citizen and his father a Cuban citizen at the time. And Cruz became an automatic Canadian citizen just by being born in that country. That's the bad luck that can befall a guy, even as he exits the womb. Cruz told the Dallas Morning News he hasn't attempted to renounce his citizenship previously because he wasn't even aware he had it. By the way, there's millions of Americans like that walking around. They're not aware. They're not even aware they may be carrying the dread Canadian gene within them, but they are. They just don't know it yet. It could activate at any moment. His mother told him he would have to make an affirmative act to have it claimed. So he would have to go to a hockey game or buy the Celine Dion Christmas album or something like that. And he said there was no reason at that time to retain counsel to analyze Canadian law. By the way, I've been on the receiving end of Canadian law. It's certainly not worth retaining counsel over because it wasn't relevant to anything I was doing. He says, however, that he does not bear any ill will. Unlike the people who hammered me for doing a Boxing Day special on Rush's show last Thursday, Senator Cruz says he does not bear any ill will toward America's northern neighbor. He says, yeah, thanks. Renounce it's the love that dare not speak is now. I'd like to see if he'd been Mexican, whether they'd have made him renounce his Mexican citizenship. But he's apparently having to renounce his Canadian citizenship. The last acceptable phobia. I wish, what he sounds like to me? I mean, I don't like to complain. But it's like when Phil Robertson says he doesn't personally have any ill will toward the gays. He's just thinks it's he personally can't see the attraction of it. Phil Robertson explained in graphic detail why he'd rather be heterosexual than homosexual, and likewise Ted Cruz has laid it out in graphic detail why he'd rather be American or Canadian. And he said he doesn't bear, he's mindful of God's injunction that we have to love everybody. He says he's not showing any ill will toward America's northern neighbor. Yeah, that's right. Mr. Surdley says so. This analogy, Canadians are the homosexuals. Basically, Mr. Surdley is right. Canadians are the homosexuals of North America. And Ted Cruz is saying he's got nothing against them personally. It's for God to judge. He will leave it for God at heaven's gate to sort out the fornicators, the sodomites, and the Canadians. And that's Ted Cruz's basic. But he's just saying he personally can't see the attraction of it. And he's not having any part of it himself. So, well, I'm hoping that there's an equivalent to GLAAD, this gay group, CLAD, a Canadian group that will call up A&E or the United States Senate, because I think this is the last acceptable hatred, Mr. Snerdley. But Ted Cruz has basically said he doesn't want to be. He doesn't want to be Canadian, so he's read the writing on the wall after all the hostility to the Boxing Day special on the Rush Limbaugh show.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.